Yes, people. Welcome to a Hold That Show special. We haven't done one of these ones in a while, but I feel like it's time that we talk about this specific club. My name is Abdalini. I am a Chelsea fan, and we're going to be talking about Chelsea from top to bottom. Before we do that, let my co host introduce himself.
Yeah, man, it's obviously Luke here representing Liverpool. International break was a ball fest, as always. Glad that Premier League is on the horizon very soon. But yeah, as Marjorie said, we haven't done one of these in a while, and it's going to be interesting talking about Chelsea because I did a couple statistics checks on Chelsea and their manager history, and I can't wait to disclose what I found. So yeah, man, let's get straight into it.
Yeah, exactly. When we begin to talk about Chelsea Football Club, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The moment when we became Boris Johnson's Blues. The moment that hasn't happened in football history. A club being taken over by the government in such a way. Now, under Roman, if we were doing this video, it would be all positive. We'd have no problems. We wouldn't say the only thing maybe bad in kind of recent years, in his last years, is that he wasn't spending the same amount of money, but that's due to FFP and because he wasn't allowed in the country. So I don't think, I felt like probably internally he felt the writing was on the wall. Now we go to a couple years ago, the Ukraine situation happened, and that leads to an exodus of everything Russian in the UK. Now, this affected two clubs. This affected Everton to a certain extent because they had links to a Russian billionaire, and it affected our club to the point where we were taken over. Roman was forced to sell the club. His assets were frozen, and we were mere days away from being liquidated as a club. When Boris Johnson and the government came in, they had no idea about the football business. They had no idea about the lives that they were going to ruin in that moment. And they came in putting on a mountain of sanctions against Chelsea Club, not to be able to make money on the match day revenue, not to be able to make money from the mega store, not being able to sell tickets to fans. Fans weren't being able to go to the stadium, and it led to a whole host of problems that they didn't realize. And I think they were very quick to do what they did without actually looking into the business factors of what is needed to run a football club and the amount of people, not just the players, but the other people that are a part of the club, the people working in the megastore, the people working on the match days, the people that are the stewards and the staff members, their livelihoods during that time period was ruined as well due to what the government did at that moment in time, and it has irreversibly changed Chelsea's fortunes for whatever, for the better or the worse, depending on who you are and what situation and what side you stand on. We moved to a bidding war where multiple entities came in and wanting to buy the club. Um, Out of all the entities that wanted the club, I think we were unlucky in the fact that the Saudis had already taken over Newcastle, because I reckon they would have been top of the list if they were available, and they probably thought about it. But it was down to a couple groups of Americans and Sir Jim. Sir Jim, who now is a part of the Manchester United ownership, well, ownership in terms of having his own sales with Ineos. Even the likes of Lewis Hamilton and stuff like that was involved in that bid. Your second bid was the Ricketts family. Um, there was a lot of controversy around them in terms of um, things outside of football, and a lot of people were anti them. And then the third option was the option that actually ended up winning, and that was Todd Boehly, and his consortium. Now, this has led to what is the modern day Chelsea problem in terms of the good, the bad, and the indifferent in terms of the club from top to bottom. we're gonna work our way from top to bottom in terms of analyzing everything about Chelsea Football Club with this episode. We will start with the ownership structure in terms of there's a lot of misinformation in regards to it. Todd is the face of the show, but he isn't the whole show. It's we are run by Clear Lake Capital, and they're an investor group that invest into multiple teams and multiple clubs, and they have multiple people involved in that. Todd is one of them. Boehly is one of them, and they are the main cruxes of who owns Chelsea Football Club. Um, they've came in with the idea of doing a multi-club model. They've also bought Strasbourg in recent years with the Kai Havertz money. Thank you, Arsenal. And with that being said, they've tried to do things I think too quickly in terms of wanting to get into that model. I think what they should have looked at in terms of the Red Bull model and in terms of the City model is that it took a period of time for you to start buying clubs and start purchasing these players. Because in order for you to generate the amount of talent you need to be able to bring in the amount of talent you want to bring in, you need multiple clubs across Europe or the world. If you look at Red Bull, they have multiple clubs across the world. New York Red Bulls, one in Austria, one in Germany. I'm pretty sure they have one in Asia as well and stuff like that. If you look at the Man City group, they have clubs all over. They even have a Spanish club that's doing really well this season in Girona. So I think the ideas and the things that these new owners wanting to do was right, but it was too fast, too soon, and it's led to to the current problems that we've had financially and the current problems in terms of the quality and the level of the squad and the team overall. I would say overall, I think it's been 50-50. I think in terms of the players they brought in, I've agreed with most of them. The only issue is the sporting directors they brought in weren't good enough for this club, and the players that and the managers that they've brought in as well. I think those are the two biggest issues, and we'll talk about that even more. But I would be interested in an outside perspective of the owners and how you feel they've done so far in terms of putting in place a structure and obviously the buying of Strasbourg and they're trying to create that multi club model and the positives and negatives of that. Go ahead, Luke.
Look, for me, I feel like the ideas are good, and to come in to a league and a sport that you're not familiar with, to come in with the ideas of wanting to dominate world football and wanting to have a structure in place, wanting to have various different parent clubs is fantastic. However, I do not think that number one, they were advised properly. And number two, this is the issues that we have when we have American owners wanted to come into the UK sport of football and thinking that it's like the NFL or it's like cricket or it's like baseball or whatever the sport that is popping for America right now, which would be NFL and basketball. Like they think that to run a successful football club is how you can do it back then or over in America. And I think Liverpool and City will always be the blueprint in terms of how a structure should be in place in order for you to thrive and do well and be successful. And the problem that we have with American owners, as I said, is they don't do their research, and then they think that they can just come in and do whatever they want, and they're not getting the correct advice, which is why we are here now talking about why Chelsea are in such a financial situation with FFP, why it's been such a mess with the management, why it's been such a mess with players, because they haven't been advised or they don't have the correct structure in place. And as I said, you need to look no further than the likes of Liverpool, than the likes of Man City. Liverpool's owners know how important a structure should be because they've gone back to the very best in the business in Michael Edwards. He was the blueprint as to why Liverpool was so successful under Jurgen Klopp because he went out and found the right players for the right money, and Klopp was able to build those gems and coach those gems into world beaters of today. With Man City went out to go get Barcelona's director of football, who worked very well with Pep Guardiola during Barcelona's dominance under Guardiola. And that's why you're able to see why Man City are dominating all these years because of that relationship that he built at Barcelona with that director of football. So it's important that you have this structure. And that's why Arsenal are starting to get to where they are because now they've realized that you have to have a solid structure in place to allow your manager to thrive, to allow that sustainability and continuity season upon season with your team growing on the field and off the field. And Chelsea are in that situation where, as I said, the owner has come in and he's had fantastic ideas, but there hasn't been a solid footballing head who's in a position where they're getting the correct advice and navigating Chelsea back to where they should be. It's probably different people offering different advice and different people going in saying Graham Potter was the correct choice when he probably wasn't, and I personally believe he wasn't. Then they're like, okay, cool, that didn't work. Maybe let's go for Maurizio Pochettino because he's got that Premier League experience without actually using statistical data like Liverpool does. Whenever they go on to find their manager, they always use statistical data to see who actually is the best manager for the philosophy that they're trying to adopt within that team. That's why they were able to get Jurgen Klopp, and that's why they've managed to narrow down the two managers in Alonso and Almiron at the moment. And I just recently saw that De Zerbi's now off the candidate list because statistically, from a data perspective, he's not on that level. So for me, as I said, the owner coming in is brilliant. He's proven that he wants to spend money. He's proven that he wants to get Chelsea to the top. However, I do not feel that the structure in place has allowed Chelsea to get back to where they need to be because of I don't feel like there's enough footballing heads upstairs advising him correctly, or whoever it is on a day-to-day operations wise is being advised correctly to navigate Chelsea to where they need to be. But I do feel that with the players that they currently have now, whether they're right for the club or whether they're not, which we will get into, I do believe that the current players that they have a fantastic ceiling for them to grow into world class players for the next 3 to 5 years for Chelsea to get to where they need to be. But it just needs to be the right manager to unlock that. And I feel like as a new owner coming in, being up against Man City, up against Liverpool, now up against Arsenal, there was always going to be that skepticism of him coming in, and there was always going to be that transitional period. I do believe he's handled it well, and he's shown, as an American, he's shown that he is the manager that's not going to come in and sit back. He's going to come in and spend money, which Liverpool and Arsenal wasn't doing at the time. So he set himself apart and he's trying to do things the right way. I just feel like, as I said, and I'll reiterate, he just needs the right people around him to advise him because the last thing you want is for Chelsea to just go out and be that club that's going to buy anybody but not have a clear vision in place. And I think that's what they're missing right now. The owner that they have is a good owner, but there's just no clear vision. There's off the field vision in terms of trying to bring in parent clubs to get feeder clubs in because that's the new thing now with transfer inflations with players markets going up. Sometimes you need that feeder club where, for example, I don't know, like a Toulouse or a Lyon might have a gem, and you might be like, you know what, because you're a feeder club, I can go to you and get you for 10 million. But if you was to sell to someone else, they could be 30, 40 million. So as I said, the vision is there and I like it. But what's holding Chelsea back is the correct structure. But I believe they'll come good. But the owner's fine. I don't have a problem with the owner. I think, again, you need to have an owner that's going to come in and buy and have a clear vision in sense of on and off the field. And you need to have an owner that's going to come in and not afraid to spend money. And he's proven that, which is what Abramovich's did. So that's amazing. But as I said again, he just needs the right people around him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're still suffering from the first transfer where it wasn't without a footballing structure, and I think the footballing structure he's brought in has been okay with Paul Winstanley and what's the other name? The other Don's name? I think Stewart and Winstanley, but I think their decision make, and this is the second stage, is these two sporting directors. I think they're on their last strike in terms of the coaches that they've put in, because they first brought in Graham Potter, which I believe wasn't good enough and didn't have enough time to succeed. But I think the team he had last season wasn't even good enough, personally. And then this season, where we've had the squad, we have the players, and we brought in Pochettino, and he hasn't shown his level. And I think there wasn't, as you said, not enough data and research done on Pochettino. Because if you looked at his time at PSG, you could tell that he isn't the same guy he was when he was back in the day in Tottenham. You can tell that he has changed, and that throughout this season, he started off on the right note, making the right sayings, making the right things, but has gradually got worse over the season. But we talk about the footballing directors and the transfers, and I feel like we're still suffering from that first summer of transfers. Now, this was the first summer I've got in front of me, the transfer list of under Todd B since the 2023 summer window, the first window. Now, we also have to understand that that first summer window, the club was just bought on the eve of the summer transfer window. The second thing was there was no structure in place for that transfer window because the club was at a standstill until Todd B bought the club. So any options in terms of re-signing players to contracts was not an option. Any options in terms of renewing players or keeping players was those kind of things. That summer has been a detrimental effect on us going forward. A lot of people say that before that summer we won the Champions League. We won it based on our defense, and two of our premium defenders left for free that summer. Um, I'm gonna go through each transfer window and what happened and why I believe that these have caused the problems. Now, the initial summer in terms of buying, because we lost Christensen and Rudiger to free, and you can see the level they're at in Barcelona and Real Madrid respectively, showing the level of defender that we lost in that summer. We had to bring in replacements. The two replacements are Koulibaly, who's now doing up drip drip in Saudi, and Fofana, who's had multiple long-term injuries and we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him around. Where's Fofana? Where's Wesley? I'm still looking for him. Left back, we brought in Cucurella, who I believe is better than Ben Chilwell. I think he's a much better player than Ben Chilwell. But for some reason, our fans think Ben Chilwell is the same one. Ever since Ben Chilwell got that major injury, he hasn't been the same. Um, English fans saw what Ben Chilwell was about over the international break. Now you can stop saying that Ben Chilwell and Conor Gallagher are good players. You've seen it for when you talk about our club compared to country, we see. Don't ever tell me Conor Gallagher's our best midfielder. Anyway, Slanina, a young goalkeeper who's out on loan. Carney Chukwuemeka, who hasn't had the opportunities yet. Kasedi, a young player who hasn't had the opportunities yet. Aubameyang, no longer here, doing drip drip in the French league. Zakaria, I don't know where he is. He's probably still in Juve. that first summer, in terms of signings, majority of them are either outside of the club or haven't played for the club. The players we lost that summer were, as I said, Rudiger and Christensen, and then we let go of Werner, Palmieri, Ross Barkley, Marcus Alonso, Billy Gilmore as well, and Batshuayi. And obviously we loaned out Bakayoko. We were unable to sell Lukaku. That season he was a flop. Man did the interview about Tuchel and the club, disrespected the club, and if it was up to the 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 previous, if it was up to Peter Cech and what's her name, Jarina, Marina. I'm gonna just say Marina. He would have stayed at the club, but his time at the club was unattainable, and we had to loan him back to the club that we bought him for 100 million. That's another financial thing that we messed up on in terms of Lukaku. Because if we waited one summer, we could have been in the race for Haaland. We could have been in the race for a better striker, and we weren't. Then you go on to the next year, and the winter break, and you bring in the likes of Jao Felix on loan. Makes no sense. Youngsters in Fofana and Andre Santos who haven't seen the pitch as much. Badashile, great signing. Mudrik, hero there. Modweki, Malagusto, Enzo Fernandez. You see the changing in terms of the type of signing we bought. We went from all old and experienced that are no longer with us to youngsters, and that's when Stanley and Stewart came in. But I feel like this, because of how bad the summer was and the losses that we made in terms of experience, defenders and stuff like that, we were trying to make it up with buying a bunch of youngsters, and I don't think we bought the experience needed as well. We also bought in Nkunku in this time period, Diego Moreira, um, and the likes of that, Nicholas Jackson, Angelo Gabriel, a lot of youngsters coming in the year of 2023, and then even into August, you're looking at Leslie Ukachukwu, Axel Disasi, Robert Sanchez, Casado, Lavia, Washington, all players under the ages of 25, without the experience, without the know-how, and not being able to be tutored and have the tutelage of experienced players that are already at the club. Aspilicueta was on the way out. Rudiger and I said Christensen were already gone. Thiago Silva is on his last legs. You've seen Sterling this season. He hasn't been the experience we needed. Man's moving like a 19-year-old with his decision making. And then the great thing we did, which I believe in 2023, was the releasing and selling of players. Letting go of Mendy, letting go of Havertz, Kante, Loftus-Cheek, Mount, Aspilicueta, Pulisic, Aubameyang, Kepa on low. Kepa and Ziyech, they should go next summer as well. And then obviously the loanings of Slanina and Lewis Hall was a bad one as well. We let go a lot of young players as well. And the thing is, it's been a mixed bag of youngsters and old players brought in over a period of time, but it was a lot of players. If you look at the amount of players we brought in, it's 27 players brought in, and then what, another 26 players brought out. So it's a lot of change in a short period of time, and it was needed because a lot of the players that were with us last season that led us to finishing 11th weren't good enough. Look at where they're playing and how they're playing now. Half of them are in Saudi. Mount, we haven't seen him. Kai Havertz is only just good now for the March Madness. March Havertz. That's the period of time that he plays well, and then you're gonna see May, June, July. He's gonna disappear again. The biggest issue is that we didn't bring in a couple 26, 27-year olds to help these players in the club, and I felt like we should have kept Jorginho. I think in terms of, if you were going to let go of Kante and Kova, you needed to keep Jorginho just to have a bit of experience, even if he doesn't start, just on the bench. And I think that's what the kind of methodology and idea of under 25 super team doesn't work, because experience doesn't have to be on the pitch, but it has to be around. Show you how to train, show you the work ethic, show you what to do when after a bad loss. Show what you to do after a big win, not to get so gassed up. Oh, thinking you're top of the world. Being able to be consistent, being able to understand what is needed to be a professional player in this day and age. You see it on the pitch after certain games and certain losses. Thiago Silva is distraught while other players are doing daps ups to the other players, acting like it's a club, meeting up their French man them, their English man them, and whoever's on the other team dapping them up. Say yo yeah, you go club afterwards, yeah. How long are you in London for? And them thing there, and you see Thiago Silva showing emotion and the passion and upset of losing the games. So I think the problem with our recruitment has been the under 25 policy, but it's been good and bad. It's like a mixture. And I think this summer we need to add a bit more of proven experience. A guy that's been doing it in and out for a couple seasons. I don't think we should go for an Osimhen just because I don't think he's done it enough for the price tag. I believe we should go for a Watkins or an Ivan Tony, or even if Isaac is available this summer, because you want someone who's proven within your league, someone who you can just put in and they don't need to do much. If Ivan Tony makes the most sense, he's already in West London. You don't even have to move house. So for me, I think it's enough of bringing these foreign talents. We've got enough of them. We need to associate ourselves with Premier League proven players that can just add the bit of extra quality that we need to get us up the table, and bring in a manager that is proven at the elite level, that has either won things or has shown at a certain level over the past couple seasons. We can't afford to go for a Jabi Alonso. It's not enough. It's not enough a body of work for him to be a thing. A Ruben Almiron makes sense. He's got a body of work. Um, De Zerbi can be okay, but his body of work isn't good enough, in my opinion. You need to look at Sergio Conceição for Porto, Diego Simeone for Atletico Madrid. Bring in someone with the experience to allow these youngsters to flourish and grow. Because that's what they need. They need an experienced head to lead them in the right direction. If you're not going to get experience from the players, do it from the management and the coaching and the staffing. And what I do like is getting in new medical staff for next summer. I like that. I like the fact that you're already looking at set pieces, bringing in the guys from Brentford. That's master strike. I'm not listening to Pochettino with that, because in terms of the set pieces, we've been terrible this season, and I think a lot of the things we're doing is right, but these sporting directors need to pattern up when it comes to certain recruitment of players, and an eye of the now. The future's, it's all good to look into the future, but the now is the most important. And Luke, I would like you to talk about how you feel our transfers has been over the part over this year, and the change in terms of this under 25 policy and things like of that nature.
I mean, Chelsea was always gonna fail from the simple fact of rule number one. If you're gonna do transfers, then the transfers need to make sense, i.e., your director of football or sporting director or whatever need to have that constant communication with the manager. You need to be able to find out the type of football your manager wants to play, and you need to be able to identify whether the players that you're bringing in is gonna be able to implement the style of play that the manager wants to play on a pitch. Every single player that's come in is not the type of player that the managers, whether it was Tuchel, whether it was Graham Potter, whether it was Pochettino, they are not the type of players that the managers wanted to play. And there lies the problem. Again, I'll go back to City and Liverpool. When Klopp came in, everybody knew that the policy was under 25s. And that's what we did. Exactly what Chelsea did. That's what we did. But the difference is Michael Edwards and our scouting team were able to communicate with Klopp and use data analysis in terms of the players that would suit the style of Klopp. And Klopp was able to identify the attributes, This is what I need from my centre back, for example. This is what I need from my wingers, from my midfielders, from my CDMs. And they will go out and implement those attributes into a data analysis. They were able to find the type of players that was necessary to then go back to Klopp and be like, okay, this is what I found. And then Klopp could be like, okay, this is my three type of players from this data that I want because they look good. Go out there and see if you're able to convince them to come to Liverpool. And then Klopp would get the final say by making that phone call and obviously promoting Liverpool and see whether they're interested or not. If Liverpool are in the Champions League, he'll be able to gauge whether or not if Champions League was an important factor for them. And if it was, he wouldn't go after them because Klopp knew that the minute Liverpool were out of the Champions League, then he knew that that player was just going to hand in a transfer request anyway. So for him, he wanted to ensure that the players who he was requesting was all about Liverpool. And that's what you need, that synergy with your director of football and with your GM. And that's why we were able to bring in gems. But then eventually, you can't always win things or you can't always get that success from under 25. So eventually, we needed to go for the experience, which is why we brought in the likes of Allison and Van Dijk, Mo Salah. And that took our game to a whole new level. And look where we are now. Pep Guardiola, exact same thing. We all know that Pep Guardiola is the originator of tiki taka. And yes, he can say that tiki taka wasn't formed by me. All I wanted to do was just do a specific style, which is what I wanted. But every single club that Pep Guardiola's gone to have all suited the style of tiki taka. They all needed to be able to handle the ball, control the ball, good at retention, good at the ball at their feet, making sure that their head is up, making sure that they're able to play that quick 1-2. They have that movement down to a T. That is his thing, and that's what he wanted, and he managed to get. Again, the director of football at Barcelona is the director of football at Man City, and because he knows what Pep Guardiola wanted, it was easy for him to go out there and get the players. That is what should have happened at Chelsea, and it didn't happen, and that's why we're in a situation where we've got various different players, good players with good potential, but various different players who's got different attributes for different philosophies, and the managers that's come in haven't been able to work with them because they're not suited for the style of play that Chelsea want to play. And that's the problem that we have at Chelsea. There's a few players that Chelsea let go for free that suited Chelsea down to a T. And then there's players that they brought in that just doesn't suit at all. And Chelsea are quite fortunate because they've been able to get rid of certain players with ease, which is fantastic. But ultimately, the manager that they bring in, that DOF needs to speak with that general manager or football manager, and they need to identify a philosophy that they want to play, and they need to identify the correct players to implement that style of play. And that's all that needs to happen because the players that have come in, as I said, some of them are not bad. And I do believe that some of them need to stay. However, it all depends on the managers that they hire. And it's a shame because guys like Fofana, that's always been injured all the time, he's got great potential. He's a decent centre back. You know, a guy like Tomori that they let go, they shouldn't have let him go. A guy like Rudiger, they shouldn't have let him go. Christiansen, a guy that's a decent ball playing centre back, they shouldn't have let him go. Badeshile, a good centre back. Levi Colwell, a good centre back. Jorginho, a good CDM, a good CM, someone that's good at retention of the ball. Billy Gilmore, a decent baller, but had to go to Brighton to get game time. Now we don't even see what he's capable of now. But he was a good CM, another player that was good at ball retention. But They let him go. Conor Gallagher still there. He's not good at ball retention. He's probably better at Crystal Palace. You let Lukaku go, which is fine. Understandable. He hasn't been cutting it in the Premier League at all. But then there's other guys that you could have brought in, the likes of Ivan Toney, the guys like Ollie Watkins, who are available. You know, it's just bad decision makings in the transfer windows, and it boils down to not having a footballing head that knows what they're doing, and it also boils down to DOFs and owners thinking that they know better, thinking that this policy works, which it does work, but you just need to identify the correct player for the management style. And that is why, as I said, Chelsea have been struggling window upon window upon window because there's just been that breakdown in communication in terms of what player suits Chelsea. But I do believe they will get it right. They just need to get the right DOF involved, the right manager involved, and then, as I said, get that communication going and identifying the correct players for the right style of Chelsea, and then keep it moving that way. But as I said before, it's been easy for Chelsea to get rid of certain players. Thank you, Arsenal. Thank you, Saudi League. Thank you, Manchester United. So they've been able to get rid of certain players with ease. This is going to be no different this summer. They'll probably be able to get rid of players again. But as I said, it's just about identifying the correct one because the last thing Chelsea need is to be outside of the top four again next season. So they really need to push on now because the solid core is there, the base is there. They just need a lot more experienced heads in there and the right one, not the guys like Raheem Sterling that's just there to collect a bag. The correct and right guys that actually want to play for Chelsea, want to play for the shirt, want to play for the fans, and want to bring back success to Chelsea Football Club.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And that leads us to the next section, the managers. Now, we've had three managers over this, or well, four technically over this period. Tuchel was great. Um, he's everything you wanted to be as a manager. Multiple finals in a row, won the Champions League, but he just had a falling out with the ownership, and that can cause a problem if the owners and the manager don't get along. That isn't going to lead to a comfortable working environment. So Tuchel had to go. Now we got these the two sporting directors in Winstanley and Stewart, and they brought in Graham Potter. Now for me, I think Graham Potter was the right choice at the wrong time. I say this because I feel that if he was in this summer rather than last summer, I think he would have had a lot better opportunity because of the quality of players that we have in the squad this season compared to last is drastically different and is more suited to his game. If you look at last season, look at the likes of Kai Havertz, Mount, Kovacic, even when you look at Kante, who is struggling with injuries and stuff like that, and you look at the defenders, Koulibaly and those kind of players, and even the goalkeeper Kepa, these players couldn't handle or play the Graham Potter style of football, leading him to have to go against his own system in order just to stay around, to stay alive. And in hindsight, I feel like it was just too soon for him to make that big move. I think he had the style of football to be successful at a big club, but it was the wrong club to go to. He would have been better enough going to Tottenham first and making that step rather than coming to Chelsea, especially at the time when we were in a transition in terms of our squad. And you can see that because a lot of those players that were in his squad are gone. And the other thing is we had too many players as well, too many options. We had about it was to the point where there was not enough room in Cobham for these players. These men were saying that they couldn't even fit in the locker room. The amount of players that were at the club at the time. And it led to a negative atmosphere, and you saw it in terms of the way we played, in terms of the players and stuff like that. And a lot of them wanted to leave, and a lot of them had to go after that summer. But if you look at the state of the club in terms of the squad now, they're a lot more happy. There's a lot more um, of a community with the players. You can see the different kind of groups within it, but they're all united. You got the English man them with Madweki, Carney and them man. Then you got the French dons, your Malagustos and them man. Then you got a couple experienced guys and stuff like that. And I think it's a much more closer group and a smaller squad and a most close knit group. But the problem is Pochettino has gone against his own principles, has made multiple decisions throughout this season wrong. Levi Colwell isn't a left back. He's one of the best young centre backs in the league. Play him centre back. Ben Chilwell can't play left wing. He's a left back, a bad left back at that. Ever since the injury, before the pre-injury, him and Reece James, 10-10 players. That night against Juventus showed everything that was great about them then. But these injuries have led to, especially to Chilwell, a regression in his quality, and he needs to be moved on, in my opinion. The midfield seems to be balanced, but for me, Pochettino is basing his team around Conor Gallagher, a guy that doesn't know ball retention, that all he does is run around. He's playing the 10 role when he can't even when he can't assist, man. He doesn't have the plethora of passes for a 10. Look at the 10s around the league. De Bruyne, Bosley, Odegaard, a Paqueta, even a Kudos has more creativity in his left foot than Gallagher at the moment, and that's the problem. The issues is in the way he set out the team. He first put Enzo in the 10, even though full well he can't play that position. And then he puts Enzo and Casado together, but tells Enzo to go veering off into the left side, left wing positions. When we all know a 4-2-3-1, the two midfielders need to be close, compact together to be able to retain the ball and create the chances and to actually have high possession. Because the style of football that you want to play is to keep the ball, move the ball left to right, and allow the attacking players to create problems for the defense. The fact that Sterling is still playing week in, week out, even though he has been having disaster class after disaster class, the substitutions have been poor. A lot of the tactics, and even in the final, one substitution in 90 minutes. That's not a man that wants to win a final. That's a man that's just trying to hang on to the penalties. I said it before and I'm saying it again. He's the definition, the embodiment of a loser. And that doesn't work in the elite level of sport, because elite level of sport is about winning trophies. And Chelsea for the last 20 plus years, even before Roman, we spoke fluent trophy. Before Roman, we were winning FA Cups. We won the Cup Winners' Cup. We were the first team, the last team to win in the old Wembley, first team to win in the new Wembley. That's before Roman. After Roman, we skyrocketed. We went from a team that was a top 6 team to a top 4 team to the team. Jose Mourinho came in back to back, made Arsene Wenger a specialist in failure. He still is. Anyway, you know, had made Ferguson had to have sleepless nights. Man had to come back with vengeance and hit a three-peat on him, and then he came back again and won another league. But it shows that the manager is the big difference, especially in the modern game, because there is no players that can take the game by the scruff of the neck and win it for you. There aren't those type of ballers. The last time I saw a player that can just get the ball and say I'm winning this game was Hazard for my team, and in the Premier League. It was Hazard, the last guy who can say, give me the ball, I'm going to win the game. I don't even have to train. Just give me the ball, I'm winning it. You don't get that with this modern game. Even with the top players, the Salahs, the De Bruynes, they need a system for them to flourish. They can't do it on their own. And that's the problem with Chelsea and Pochettino, is the system that he's trying to play is a flawed system, is a system that doesn't work. And for me, it's a system that works in the first half. The players do their job, they do it to perfection. They maybe miss a couple chances here and there. But then what happens in the second half? Wrong substitutions, wrong tactics. I don't know what you're telling them in the halftime interval because that matters. In order for these young players, especially when it comes to motivation and telling them, okay, sure we're leading at halftime, but you need to keep going. You need to keep attacking. You need to keep going. You can't be telling man in extra time of a cup final to just let's try and get penalties. Let's try and go for penalties. No, you don't tell them that. You tell them attack, 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 and try and win the game in extra time or in 90 minutes. You do not leave anything left on the floor. We especially against Liverpool when they played an extra game in midweek when we didn't. Guess what Man United did? They attacked, attacked, attacked till the 90th minute to extra time and they won their game. And that could have been us. But Pochettino, you're a loser. And for me, that's the biggest problem I have with the last two managerial decisions is that we've hired losers in terms of the mindset. Because that's what it's about. It's about mindset and it's about tactics. And if you don't have the mindset for the top club, don't be at the top club. Go back to Tottenham, go to Aston Villa, go to Newcastle, go to Fulham, go to Leeds, go to clubs that are just, happy to be there, happy to get fourth, happy to, just be in Europe. When you're in a top club, when you're in top four club in the country, yeah, fourth, by the way, because Arsenal are third, you need to win. And I'm not allowing for the standards to go down with your foolishness talking about, oh, our squad is big, but we have a bunch of youngsters. Use them. Ian Matson is out on loan. We needed a left back for time. You didn't use him. We needed a striker. Fofana got put out on loan. We didn't have a back. We still don't have a backup striker to Jackson. Why is Fofana doing up long shots for Burnley? They have David Washington, all up in the videos in the social media, but never on the pitch. What's the point? So for me, the managers have been poor the last two seasons, and that's the biggest detriment to Clear Lake and to Todd B and to the sporting directors. The next managerial choice needs to be the right one, because if it isn't, we're gonna continue to regress, and dare I say it, we're not big enough to go down. Ask Leeds in the early 2000s. Oh, you're gonna be a championship team. You're gonna be a yo-yo club. Did they believe that? No. Ask Newcastle. Did they believe they were gonna go down when they were up there in the late 90s, finishing second to United, saying I'd love it if I beat them? No. There's never a club not big enough to fail, because if you run disastrously and poorly, eventually the chickens come to roost and you get relegated. There's not a club in this country that won't get relegated, including you, Arsenal, because we know what you did. You paid your way to be in the Premier League. You got relegated the season before. We know that. Anyway, every club gets relegated. Every club has their moment in the sun, and every club will get taken down easily. We can become the next Leeds, the next Nottingham Forest, the next Newcastle, the club that goes down and wonders in the championship if this next decision isn't made right. Because it's all good and well thinking about the future, but the present needs to be sorted out. And if you want to buy more clubs, you need your first club to be successful, just like Man City is, just like the Red Bull Leipzigs of this world. Be successful in the league that you're in, especially when it comes to the multi-club model and people wanting to join your club, because that's how you become more successful and more successful. If young players are saying, okay, if I go Strasbourg, I have an opportunity to be in a Premier League winning team, they're gonna say yeah. But if you ask them now, they're gonna say no. Why am I gonna go Strasbourg for? If we buy a Portuguese club or a Spanish club or an Italian club and we tell players, listen, go there, hone your craft, you have an opportunity to come to Chelsea. In their mind, they have to think, oh, I'm going to a club that's winning leagues, winning Champions Leagues, winning or everything. That memory can go real quick. Arsenal used to be a club that people said, yeah, I want to go to Arsenal because they win leagues. They got Wenger, they got Henry, they got Vieira. Ask a young football fan about Arsenal now, what you know about them. Bottle jobs, losers. Ask a fan 20 years, 20, 30 years ago, 25 years ago about Liverpool. Bottle jobs, losers. Now you're a fan about Liverpool. Winners. Big mentality. If it wasn't for the 115 charges, dominance. Ask about Man City 20, 30 years ago. Ask about PSG 20, 30 years ago. Who? Exactly, no pop, because they weren't even around. So, as far as I'm concerned, the next manager has to be important because that's the difference between us club becoming championship or winning or becoming champions. And that's the difference. We're lucky this season that there are clubs worse than us, but that's not always going to be the case. And the clubs coming up, they're looking good. Leicester, Leeds, Ipswich, they're looking good. Stop messing about. Bring in a winner. Luke, what you got to say about that?
I mean, the only thing that I disagree with you with is the Graham Potter. I don't think he was the right man at the wrong time. I don't think he was the right man for the club, period. I think for me, he did not have the minerals. He didn't have the aura. Chelsea's a big club. Liverpool, big club. United, Arsenal, the big clubs. Like, you should be looking at the likes of Diego Simeone, guys that's got the capacity, guys that's got the minerals, guys that's got the CVs. That's what Chelsea's always been about. They've never gone for unknown guys that's probably got a couple years in their belt in a Premier League that hasn't won anything, that hasn't even done anything to establish themselves. Brighton was only just starting to cook that season. Before that, they were bums, absolute bums. So the fact that Graham Potter got given that opportunity, nah, bruv. It's the same thing that I'm saying about De Zerbi. De Zerbi's not ready to pick up a big club yet. He's not. And if he were to go to a big club, he's just gonna ruin his credibility. And that's what happened to Graham Potter. So for me, yeah, it's all good to go for like the come ups, but there has to be a system in place for that come ups. And right now, during the transition period of Todd B and having a philosophy that they did, buying anyone and everyone and not actually liaising with the likes of Graham Potter, he was always going to be destined to fail. So for me, like, he wasn't the right person. However, the right person was actually still there at the club, and that's Thomas Tuchel. No one's got a better win rate percentage than him. His win rate percentage is 60%, point 0.5 or point 0.9. That's up there with Antonio Conte, Angelotti, Maurizio Sarri. He has a better win percentage than Jose Mourinho. Mourinho's win percentage was 58%. That goes to show that Thomas Tuchel was the right man for the job. And it's unfortunate that him and Todd B didn't get on. But maybe Todd B was moving like one egotistical, chauvinistic cow where he thought, I'm the manager, this is what I want. Ultimately, you should be trusting the manager that you have. He's got credentials, he's got the minerals. He just won the CL. You don't need to come in on some big boy thing saying, "Oh, I want this person in the team. I'm gonna sign this person." Nah, brother. You're a new owner. You're an American that has Scooby Doo knowledge on the Premier League, on football. So what you should be doing is actually liaising with your current manager who actually brought good success to Chelsea. That's what you should be doing, but you didn't do that. And then by you icing man out the picture, you've then caused a domino effect of Chelsea's situation that we currently have right now. So Todd B is the one to blame for Chelsea's inconsistency in the last I don't know how many seasons now.
2 seasons, two
What
seasons.
2 seasons? What he should have done was kept Thomas Tuchel because he wasn't a bad manager. He was a good manager. And to have that high win rate percentage as well goes to show he was the right man for the job. To win the CL when you wasn't even expected to win as well. That's the second time that's happened with Chelsea. To do that, the players were fighting for Thomas Tuchel. Every single player, bar Romelu Lukaku, they were all fighting for him. They wanted to die for man on the pitch, but all because of the lack of communication or the bad relationship, man had to go. And look where we're at now with Chelsea. You've just gone through managers. Not to say that you've never been a club to go through managers, but at least you went through managers and still won stuff. Now you're going through managers and looking like a bum. And that's not the history of Chelsea. That's not. So Todd B is the one to blame, really and truly. When you analyze everything, he's the one to blame because he's the one that's caused Chelsea in a position that they're in now. And now we got Pochettino, a bum, a guy that's never won anything. He went to the most easiest league and he still didn't win anything with the likes of Neymar and Messi in the team and Mbappe. Still didn't win anything. Then on top of that, you had Tottenham's prime years, the golden era. You still didn't win a cup. You was never gonna win the league anyway, but you didn't even win a cup. You didn't win anything. Now you've come to Chelsea with that same loser mentality that you've had in your last two teams. You've now come into this team and you've gone against your philosophy. You've gone against your belief. You've gone against your attacking, attractive style of football that we know you to play. You're not doing it. Why? Because you don't trust the players. Evidently. Because the players that are in there is not who you asked for. Again, director of football and Todd Boehly's fault. We will be sitting here talking about something completely different if Pochettino actually requested for the players that he currently has. But he didn't. Now we can sit here and be like, well, as a manager, you should be able to work with what you got. 100%. 100%. However, you also need to be able to trust the players that you have. And clearly he doesn't. Because if you put in Colwell at left back, you put in Ben Chilwell at left wing, you're playing Gallagher in the 10, you're just moving people out of positions. It goes to show that he does not trust the players and the team that he has. And it's evident. So for me, yeah, Pochettino has been at fault. And yeah, his lack of substitutions, whatever he says at halftime hasn't been that great. 100%. But it starts from the top and it trickles its way to the bottom. That has been the overall problem at Chelsea. Is Pochettino the right man for the job? Probably not. However, if he had the players that he actually wanted in the transfer windows, would we be sitting here saying the exact same thing? I don't know because it's all hypotheticals. However, we're going to base it off of what he has now and the seasons that he's had. And no, he's not the right man for the job because clearly he's not getting the best out of his players and he's making stupid decisions. Conor Gallagher is a younger version of Jordan Henderson. He shouldn't be in that team. Let's be real. And he's holding that midfield back. You
Yes.
have a solid number 10 in Cole Palmer. Why are you not utilizing him there? You got wide ballers, skillful ballers with pace in Madweki and Mudrich. Why are you not playing them? All Jackson needs is service. And the players at the time when they have played, the guys that I've mentioned, Jackson's been on form and he's been delivering. But for me, if you're not setting out the team right, if you're tinkering with the formations, if you're not putting players in their right positions, then the rhythm, the chemistry, and the form of the team is always going to be an issue. And that's why Chelsea are in the position that they're at in the table. So ultimately, I digress with if Todd Bowley put his pride aside, we'd be saying that Chelsea would be challenging right now because Thomas Tuchel would be there. But right now, as I said, it starts from the top, trickles down to the bottom, and it all started with Todd B.
Yeah,
and that's my opinion.
yeah, that's correct. I agree with a lot of that. In terms of Graham Potter, I said it's the wrong time because he wasn't ready. I think he's a manager that can play a style of football at top club, but he needs 3 4 seasons before you bring him in, kind of thing. And he was also a manager in Ostersund's and stuff like that, and he showed levels against Arsenal in that role. In terms of managers, for me, I'd bring back Tuchel. I think Todd B needs to get his pride out the way and bring him back. Because if you look at the manager market, Nagelsmann's at Germany, so you can't get him. Hansi Flick maybe. Diego Simeone's going to be a lot to bring in. That's going to be cost a lot of money. Um, we talked about Ruben Almiron as an option for certain clubs, but that's the 25 million release clause. Sergio Cansal in Porto, he's another quality manager over in Portuguese league as well. So for me, if Tuchel is available in the summer, I think you bite the bullet and you bring him back because I think he knows the club, he has the experience, and I think he would thrive with these young players, and I think he would get the right players in as well. And that's what you need. You need a manager with experience that knows Premier League football, and I feel like that's gonna be the next step that we make. I think we go for experience, but that is everything and more we can say about Chelsea Football Club, a club that went from the Roman Empire to the downfall of America with Todd B. And it's been a town for the last couple seasons. This has come out of nowhere because no one expected the British government to take away the club from Rowan like they did. And we're living in a moment kind of thing. And I think Todd B and Clear Lake have a lot of great ideas, but they need to start implementing certain things within the structure to make those ideas go. Make sure Chelsea's great first, then do the multi club thing, then focus on other clubs. Looking in Portugal, looking at Brazil, looking at looking at Holland. I think those three places are places where you buy clubs and you can cultivate talent. America's another place you can go to, and certain places in Asia. And I would say this: the scouting has been on point for young talent. In terms of the guys that they've looked at, they were there for Kennedy Paez, who looks like an absolute baller. They were there for the likes of Endrick, but they got out muscled by Real Madrid, which happens. So in terms of the scouting, I think it's been improved a lot over the last couple of years, and a lot of the players that we bought more recently have been talents. But we need a bit of experience in the management, and we need a bit of experience in the playing staff, and I think the future can be bright. But the other side could lead to championship, and especially with financial fair play, profit and sustainability, and the Premier League and the FA acting like corrupt dictators when it comes to these rules, it's going to be a long, long, long summer for a lot of these clubs, and a lot of selling before buying for these clubs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the summer window and how the club moves. And we might have to let go of a couple of youngsters just for pure profit, just because that's the way football is, and that's the predicament we're in the financial kind of things, and with the looming investigation to the dealings of Roman, that is another issue that might lead to us either getting points deductions, transfer embargoes, and things of that nature. So I think this summer is the last summer where we're gonna have the opportunity to make a difference to the squad. I think next winter and summer we probably get a transfer embargo or a big fine because of these allegations and these things going around. And you can see it, what they've done to Nottingham Forest, what they've done to Everton. But we finish. This is the analysis of Chelsea Football Club from top to bottom. Um, there's not much really to say on the players because we've kind of talked about them during this because of the transfers and the ages and things of that nature, and that is a thing that can work itself out in this summer. But we'll see. This summer is going to be an interesting time for many clubs. Liverpool with new management, Chelsea with what they do next, Arsenal if they keep Arteta if he wins, Pep Guardiola and the 115 charges, Man United under Ineos. It's looking like a major shift in the Premier League is going to happen real soon. And we're going to see who is going to be the clubs that make it out of that shift. But this has been the Whole That Show special. It's not live, but we do have another episode coming out this week. Yes, double episode week, where we will go and discuss the team of the season so far and maybe have a little cheeky preview to the weekend as well. But this has been your host of the most, Abdalini, Luca Donis, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.
That's not soft.